Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. It's been a dizzying 24 hours for the White House with developments on multiple fronts. First, the story of the president and the porn star. NBC reported today that President Trump's personal lawyer used his Trump Organization email days before the 2016 election to arrange to pay the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Then there is the curious case of former Trump aide Sam Nunberg. Early in the week, he stormed cable news to say he would not cooperate with Robert Mueller's investigation despite a subpoena. Well, today, cameras were rolling as Nunberg did arrive at the federal courthouse in Washington, prepared to talk to a grand jury. There he is. And finally, the dramatic announcement last night that President Trump had agreed to meet with North Korea's Kim Jong Un within months. It came just hours after his own Secretary of State had told reporters we're a long way from negotiations. All the more startling, the announcement was made by South Korea's national security advisor, who was at the White House to brief officials on his recent talks with the North Korean leader. Shortly after 5 p.m., President Trump popped his head into the press briefing room to tease a major announcement on North Korea, catching White House staffers off guard. 2 hours later, the South Korean national security advisor told reporters Kim Jong Un is committed to denuclearization and would refrain from any further nuclear tests. He made this announcement.
He expressed his eagerness to meet President Trump as soon as possible. President Trump appreciated the briefing and said he would meet Kim Jong Un by May to achieve permanent denuclearization.
Well, a White House statement came about a half hour later saying President Trump will accept the invitation to meet with Kim Jong Un at a place and time to be determined. Trump tweeted about 30 minutes after that, quote, Kim Jong Un talked about denuclearization with the South Korean representatives, not just a freeze. Also, no missile testing by North Korea during this period of time. Great progress being made, but sanctions will remain until an agreement is reached. Meeting being planned. Well, today, Sarah Huckabee Sanders offered a more cautious message, insisting there won't be a meeting until North Korea takes concrete actions. Let's watch her.
They've made promises to denuclearize. They've made promises to stop nuclear and missile testing. And we're not going to have this meeting take place until we see concrete actions that match the words and the rhetoric of North Korea.
Is there a possibility that these talks with North Korea with Kim Jong Un may not happen?
Look, they've got to follow through on the promises that they've made, and we want to see concrete and verifiable action on that front.
It's possible that could not happen.
I mean, there are a lot of things possible. I'm not going to sit here and walk through every hypothetical that could exist in the world, but I can tell you that the president has accepted that invitation on the basis that we have concrete and verifiable steps.
Well, a senior administration official later told NBC News there's no new conditions, such as weapons inspections being added to the talks. In other words, it goes back to what was said last night. Denuclearization is a long-term goal. Well, Bill Richardson is the former governor of New Mexico, former ambassador to the UN. He has negotiated with the North Koreans in the past. Susan Page is Washington bureau chief for USA Today. Nayyera is a former State Department official under President Obama. Bill Richardson, Governor, thank you so much. You were the first name I thought of this morning, and I mean it. So tell me, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm confused. I came out yesterday saying that this summit was a good idea with a lot of risks, but I commended the president because we need a game changer, a Hail Mary pass in a Korean peninsula that is very, very, very tenuous and very tense. Now, with this new statement by the White House press secretary, I'm confused. What does it exactly mean? Denuclearize before the meeting?
Well, that's been overruled.
Steps?
Bill, you haven't kept up. In the last few minutes, they've come out and said, ignore Huckabee Sanders. We're going back to what was said last night. The meeting is to establish a denuclearization. It doesn't come before the meeting. I think it's good.
Well,
yeah,
that's good. And that's good. But at the same time, you know, the Secretary of State obviously was not consulted. He's in Djibouti in Africa. You know, he should be back. What the president needs to do, get your act together, White House. Get the White House and the Pentagon and the State Department especially on a coherent strategy. What do we get before the meeting? Because the White House press statement, I'm glad it's been corrected, is very confusing. What do you? He's not going to denuclearize before the meeting. We'll be lucky if he denuclearizes at all.
I know. What are they going to do at the meeting? Have cupcakes? I mean, it's all over by then. Susan, you've been doing great reporting on this, although your paper went to bed before this, I noticed last night, before this incident. What do you got to go to bed at 3 in the afternoon? Or
hey,
what?
we're a digital publication.
Okay.
You can read us online all
right.
the time.
Just teasing. What do you make of this? You did a great analysis this morning. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that both these leaders get something they want, which is international acclaim, stature. I mean, I think for Kim Jong Un, this is already a victory for him because he's going to meet face to face if the meeting goes forward with the U.S. president. And, you know, for President Trump, this is one more example of his willing to be very disruptive. This is not the way our policy toward North Korea is usually developed and rolled out. This is something quite different, and maybe it'll come to a bad end. But at least as Governor Richardson is one of the few people who's actually negotiated with North Korea in the past, has said, maybe it's got the potential to shake things up.
Nayyera, what was an alternative for the president? Once the word came through the South Koreans that the North Korean leader, the dictator, wanted to meet and was talking denuclearization and agreeing to end all his testing and showing good faith, what was the alternative answer? No, forget about it, or what was it?
Well, actually, the alternative answer is let's do something concrete in the meantime. Let's actually see you spend a couple of months not doing missile testing. Why don't you consider opening up to weapons inspectors? Let's do something that actually works towards...
Is there a chance in a million years he would do that?
He's saying he's going to, but let's actually see what happens. This is the challenge with diplomacy. You have to go back and forth. Welcome any type of move towards diplomacy. The challenge we're seeing here is that Kim Jong Un is probably the more rational actor of the two. We have a United States president.
You mean that?
No, we have a president of the United States right now who is a chaos agent. We do not know what he will say from one day to the next. We absolutely know that Kim Jong Un has always seen it as a marker of success to be seen side by side with the president of the United States, to be seen as a legitimate state. He is banking on this to be not seen as a rogue
he doesn't get
terror
any of
threat
that
anymore.
Unless he deals, because let me go back to Governor Richardson.
How he's going to get this meeting other than he's agreed to.
If he pulls some number in Hawaii or wherever they meet in the DMZ at Panmunjom, wherever they meet on the 30th parallel, wherever they meet, if he pulls some little tantrum and starts banging his shoe on the table, or he pulls some number that's obviously not serious, he doesn't get any respect, does he? Just for the meeting itself, even if he looks like a fool?
Well, I believe Kim Jong Un did this meeting for the following reasons. One, he wants to stay in power. He wants to be like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Secondly, I think sanctions are biting. They are hurting him. The Chinese have done a little more. And third, Chris, I think what he wants is to be an equal with the United States. Of course he isn't. But he's always said, and the North Koreans, when I've been there, they always say, you know, the big powers in the region are not China, South Korea, they're us, North Korea, and you, the United States. So I think this meeting has to be carefully planned, or it's going to be a disaster. It's got to be probably, I would think, in Panmunjom, so both sides can say this is the DMZ, you know, or in China. Or in Geneva, although I doubt Geneva because it's in Europe. That's always been a neutral site. But I think it's important that this summit take place. Things can't be going worse in that peninsula. I think the South Koreans deserve the main credit for getting the summit with the North Koreans and then brokering perhaps this summit with Kim Jong Un. And Kim Jong Un, you know, he's gone from a bomb thrower to being I won't say a rational actor, but a man with a plan that knows where he wants to end up. I think he's been underestimated.
Do you think he's willing to give up nuclear weapons?
No, but I think it's still worth to talk to him about curbing their use. He's not going to dismantle them. He's got about 20. But I think it's worth talking about missiles, talking about stopping research, stopping the work of missiles with the warhead that could hit the United States, conventional weapons, stop threatening South Korea. I mean, there are 25 million South Koreans, American troops in Japan, in South Korea. I think there are a lot of positive steps. Also, we've got 3 Americans detained there. Get them out. We've got American remains of our soldiers from the Korean War. I got 7 out in 2007 under President Bush. We should push to get agreements on those soft power areas that I think might lead to serious reductions in their nuclear arsenal. But they're going to have a price, Chris. They're not going to do this for free. So let's get ready.
Well, Nayyera, I want to go to Nayyera. You've been through this whole, and I'll get back to this. What's on the table? Would we recognize them? Would we normalize relations if they get rid of their nuclear program or vastly limit it?
Normally,
is that on the table?
Normally, the path would be you have an ambassador-level conversation. We don't even have an ambassador.
No, I'm talking about ultimately, will we recognize North Korea? We'll accept the fact that they run that part of Korea.
This is so far beyond what the expectation of foreign policy and how we operate altogether as an international community. Everything about foreign policy in this administration fits under that rubric right now. But there's zero benefit to the United States for acknowledging North Korea, particularly this early. I also argue that there's zero benefit to the United States to dangle out a meeting, a confirmed meeting with the President of the United States.
But ultimately, are we better off with a recognized North Korea without nuclear weapons than we
are better off with a North Korea that feels under threat and that the United States has a top dog position. We are not better off when we're seen as equals.
How do we do that? They keep building nuclear weapons.
The sanctions are working.
Under Obama, under W, they kept building nuclear weapons. So that approach didn't work.
This plan.
Why are you speaking with such confidence here? Nothing worked before.
The effort to denuclearize North Korea is a direct result of years and years of sanctions that have crippled the economy, that have hurt him politically in his own country. This is the fact that we are at a position where they are willing to negotiate, that they are the ones throwing the Hail Mary pass, is an opportunity for the United States. We should be using it smartly. We should be planning for it and be strategic.
Who gets credit for this coming together, Obama or Trump?
A combination of every presidency before this.
Including Trump.
Every presidency before this.
Trump.
And South Korea.
Including Trump. You're not going to give him anything, are you?
No, not on this one. And I'm not going to give him this one because even the following day, his own administration is stepping on its own potential bold move. If this was going to be a bold move, have a plan of action and do it. But instead, you have a White House press secretary who's gotten stuck with getting talking points from the Pentagon,
apparently
from the State Department.
I agree with you. I agree. What do you think about that?
I was going to say, Governor Richardson said things couldn't be worse. I think the fact is things could be worse because one of the great risks on the Korean Peninsula is an accidental war because we have such a lack of trust. And if you have a meeting that breaks down in mutual recriminations, it seems to me we could end up in a worse situation.
Yeah, I don't think the little guy benefits from that either. Anyway, former Governor Bill Richardson, my friend, thank you so much for coming on short notice. And you were the one we went to. You were our first responder, sir. Thank you. Susan Page and Nayyera Hack, thank you both for your expertise. Coming up,